This week is kind of like a Christmas special, and it's all about how we hired another narrowboat exactly this time last year. And we had fun travelling from Stourport and ended up on the Shropshire Canal, and here, there and everywhere, to be honest. But if you haven't caught the second series of the Canal Boat Diaries on BBC 4 recently, you can catch up with it on the iPlayer. A lot of this journey was featured on there, including how Robbie Cummings' Naughty Lass boat was originally fitted from the same hire company that we used. In fact, our boat, called the Eastern Star, a 45-foot narrowboat built in 1994, is its sister. But this isn't an ad for the company, as you'll soon find out why. When we arrived, which includes free parking at the Stourport Basin, by the way, we were originally meant to be on the Western Star, but the central heating had packed up. And when we got on this one, we realised the boat desperately needed an update, as things like the kitchen lino was worn out. Also, we needed to keep running the boat a lot more to get power than we did when we hired the Canal Time narrowboat for our honeymoon earlier in the year, which in general we found in a much better condition than this. It only had 12 volt around the boat, and luckily, because we travelled there in our camper van, we were able to take our electrical inverter to charge our laptops, phones and take a slow cooker, so we hadn't realised we needed to be more prepared than what we were. Anyway, once we'd had our handover and Christmas began, we soon forgot about it and we were on our way. And they did leave us a bottle of mulled wine as a treat. So enough of the moaning, let's start the holiday. For our first night though, we thought because there were a huge Tesco's nearby and loads of other shops, we thought we'd pull up just alongside the Black Star pub and stock up in case we struggled to find anywhere open or nearby later. Oh, and I completely get why this dog poo sign was here. The moment we moored up and stepped off the boat, I'd stood in some, traipsed it in the boat, which meant I had to spend half an hour mopping up everywhere and then immediately head out to buy a doormat. We also wanted to check out the River Severn because that was another route option we could have taken, but with the rising water levels, it meant we had to head towards Kidderminster. And now for some Tesco food shopping. I'm curious if Christmas dinner veggies are as cheap this year. And to make ourselves feel more at home, we're catching up on Country House Gent on Amazon Prime. Although what was quite funny was when we woke up, we didn't realise that Aldi or Lidl, straight in front of us, was only about a 30-second walk away. And we'd walked back with quite a few shopping bags from Tesco. That would have made things a bit easier walking with our shopping. So we're now moving down the River Stour. Hands started to settle. It's funny, I don't even remember that flashing new ball. So I reckon he lost it within a couple of days. I believe this was our second lock towards Kidderminster, Falling Sands Lock. I tend to drive as I'd never opened a lock on my own at this point, although I'm still quite nervous about them today. And driving in one is still quite a scary experience because we've heard quite a few stories and pictures of seeing them flip over. But having a go at locks is definitely something I'd like to feel more confident with. And you'll soon find out that Hans took every opportunity to try and stretch his legs by following his daddy at the locks.
Bye, Hans! Bye! Bye, Hans! Daddy, don't let her go!
And to know where we were going, like many other narrowboaters, we bought a few Nicholson map guides to help us along. And we're now at Caldwell Lock near Kidderminster. I'm sure I'll mispronounce a few as I go along, but we didn't actually stop here until we were on our way back. And I don't remember this being the first time, but Hans must have fell in the canal. Usually it's for a tennis ball or a floating shoe. Also, for the layout, we weren't keen on the kitchen being towards the front of the boat, because when it would come to lunchtime, my husband would take over, I'd go and whip something up, like this ploughman sandwich, which looks way too carby compared to what I'm used to these days, and it was quite antisocial. And the bedroom was at the back, Hans' favourite place. And heading off again, we're going through Wolverley, and another lock just outside a conveniently named pub, The Lock, which we ended up mooring slightly north of there for the night. How's this for a bit of carpentry info? The guide mentioned that Wolverley used to be known for making nails. And we're now heading towards Cuckley, met another lock. And had to turn the light on as we met our first tunnel, Cuckley Tunnel, which is 65 yards long. It was quite scary about possibly clipping our nice new bikes. This has to be my favourite boat name so far. You're never too old for a bit of Flintstones. That's my kind of boat. We're now at Ostcliffe Bridge, and what a glorious day this was. One thing that I brought from home with us being away for 2 weeks was my small slow cooker, because I like the idea of cooking while we were travelling down the canal. And the only thing that I cooked in it was my favourite lamb and mint stew with added dumplings. I've since shared this recipe on my blog because we love it so much. I'll leave a link below if you want to try it out. And after searing the meat, I chuck everything else in, but I did find that I had to cook it for much longer than I would at home. It just didn't have enough power. Anyway, while that's cooking, let's get back on the water. And we're at Whittington Lock.
It's a bit chilly today.
So one of the things that we've learnt from just the 2 narrowboat trips now is that it's best to fill it with water every other day minimum. Any longer and it can take a long time to fill up. I've heard it can take up to an hour to fill a water tank if it's completely empty. So we found a spot between Kimver and Dunsley, although later this is the spot I realised that I'd left one of the mooring pins behind. So if you find it, it's mine.
Hello, are you guarding our lamb and mint stew? Hey? Smells nice. Is that yours? You hungry? Hungry? Ha.
And for some reason that I can't remember, with it being a nice stretch, I tested my new electric bike while my husband and Hans sailed away. Maybe it was because I could try and get some distance to open my first lock, and it was a bit tough from what I remember.
So I'm about to tackle my first lock. It's usually me driving down there because I think that looks easier. So yeah, it's taken me a little bit of getting used to it. I had some instructions, but now my husband is over there and Hans, yeah. I'll see how this goes, cross my fingers.
May have had to have some guidance. And once we were back on, we thought let's put the bike near the tiller instead of the top, hence the rug that we brought from home for protection. We then had to come to a decision. Do we go straight on and eventually aim towards the Shropshire Canal, or take a right towards Wolverhampton with lots of locks immediately in view? I think we'll head towards a shoppy for Christmas. I think we pulled up somewhere around Presswood, with it getting dark every night around 4 p.m. Okay, back to the slow cooker. For those who don't know, I am also a full-time food blogger. I usually photo everything in natural daylight, but while I was in a boat, why not take advantage of the background and have fun with it? Although I have updated the pictures again since, because the yellow tinge from the lighting wasn't what I wanted.
What's the matter? Do you want some? Do you want some lamb? He's so cute. Go on then. Go on then. Straight away.
And now it's Christmas Eve and we're keeping our eyes peeled for a good spot to stay for a couple of nights. But first, let's encounter a very angry Hans who confidently backs up their garden sign asking boaters not to moor opposite his or her bungalow. Is this really a polite notice? It feels a bit like an oxymoron to me. Oh, he's got back up. Now we're at Bumble Hole Lock and we came across the intimidating 3 locks on 3 different levels. Bratch Bottom Lock, Bratch Middle and Bratch Top. Not for the faint-hearted.
Here we go again! Shush! Another 3 locks.
And it wasn't long after that workout we found a cool spot on the opposite side of the towpath next to Dimmingsdale Lock, which was incredibly peaceful. And Christmas Day, Hans was very impressed with the rope that Claire from Making Out of the Woods sent him.
Fetch! Come on!
And time for a bit of English breakfast while we prepared the roast beef that would give us lots of leftovers for a few days. And a quick bike ride and dog run to Whitewick to test our bikes again. Oh, I forgot to say, and another thing that we picked up while we were in Stourport was a 3-tier steamer from a local homeware shop. This turned out to be so useful to avoid pan juggling. And this was Christmas dinner, roast beef and trimmings in a giant Yorkshire pudding. And Hans had plenty of leftovers, which later got pinched by another dog walking past on the well deck. For Boxing Day morning, we were on our way again to explore.
Boxing Day and it's very cold. Very cold and windy. Wish I had a balaclava.
Hello, Mr. Heron. I think it was just before turning left at the Orthley junction and onto the Shropshire Canal that we found someone selling diesel on the right, which we took the opportunity just in case we were low, because we don't know how quickly people run out. I found this stretch of the canal my favourite because it was incredibly peaceful. But one thing I'm not so keen on is that there seem to be a lot of paving slabs alongside the wall, meaning that if we tried to moor up, we'd scrape it and we'd have to get that stick thing to push ourselves away. And Boxing Day was so cold that we decided to pull up a bit earlier than normal and treated ourselves to a duvet day in our snugs and drinking hot mulled wine while we tried to get a good TV signal. Keep those Pringles away from me. So where are we off to now? We're on page 91 of the Nicholson's Guide for 4 counties and Welsh canals around Braywood and Coven. I was very drawn to the railing detail on the Stretton Aqueduct, which goes over the A5, Watling Street, a 252-mile Roman road. I'm sure many of you know what this is if you live in the Midlands. After a bit of Wikipedia knowledge, a fact for you is that this was designed by Thomas Telford, which was completed in 1835. That's probably the only fact in this video. Anyway, we're still on the lookout for a place that sold mooring pins. Thankfully, Thanks to Google, we found one that was also a garage just over the Tavern Bridge next to the Hartley Arms pub called Turner's Garage at Wheaton Aston. It sold everything that we needed, which was a relief because almost nowhere was open around Christmas. And we kept carrying on, not wanting to come back. And this spot of the Shropshire Union Canal was perfect for me and Hans stretching our legs because I became very conscious that I wasn't doing much exercise.
You wanted that? I can't fetch that. Or is it this? Come on then. Woo! Whoopsie daisy. Yeah, that's definitely no good.
Because it was so dark, we didn't catch it on film, but we stayed near or in Cotonwood, pretty much next to the Norbury Park, between Black Flat Bridge 47 and Park Heath Bridge 48. And this is when we thought we've probably gone a bit too far. Let's make use of this winding hole and start heading back. Which, by the way, we found the website canalplan.uk really useful to help plan our trip. But when we made it back to the Orthley Junction, we thought we'd go and check out part of the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal by squeezing one final night in. I know we were cutting it very fine before we started officially heading back. And what a beautiful view for an evening sunset at Coven Heath. This is another place that Hans fell in the morning. And it was around here that he also jumped off the boat, and we struggled to get him back on because those paving slabs were there, and no amount of trying to coax him on a plank helped either until the top dog got involved. Anyway, we're now heading back in the direction we went, so here's a montage until we get to New Year's Eve and crack open a bottle of possibly fake champagne. And this is where we discovered our favourite Christmas Day spot was gone. So we pulled up a bit further away, and we were so relieved that there were no houses around because Hans hates fireworks. And I'm testing a neck warmer and my earmuffs, which drastically helped.
Good boy. Yes, you're a good boy. Ow.
Montage again? Go on then. After a bit of shopping and eating out at Kidderminster, we got to where we started, Stourport Basin, the day before it was officially our last day. And someone was conveniently there to do a pump out to save both of us time. The other thing was, after we'd got home, we had to settle another bill for fuel which we'd used. And from what I remember, they charged us a lot more than the other places that we'd seen selling diesel. Now, had this boat been nicely done up, it would have softened the blow. We were a bit miffed at paying a premium. We also hated that the double bed had a single bed cut into the space above our legs. So when I'd forget about it, I'd shin it and it was really painful. But with good company and great views, we did really enjoy ourselves. And we'd rather be on a narrowboat for Christmas than in a lockdown at home. Anyway, I hope you all have a great Christmas and a good start to the new year. And let me know if you can recommend any great narrowboat hire companies that you've tried and tested, as we're always looking out for more, or even possibly want to do up and make it as our own. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you soon. Merry Christmas!